What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers for UFC Vegas 90. We got Brendan Allen going against Chris Curtis. We are back in the Apex after a card in front of a crowd in Atlantic City. And if you're wondering what I'm doing, well, I am bedridden. I'm very, very, very sick. I'm very, very, very sick. I'm so sick. I don't think I've ever been so sick in my life. I'm sick. I'm sick. I'm sick of the trash judging, the trash scorecards, the scorecards that make you say, what the hell? What the hell are you watching? What are you watching? I'm sick of the trash refs. I'm sick of the no calls. I'm sick of the early stoppages, the late stoppages. I'm sick of Gary Copeland and his punk ass. I'm sick of Keith Peterson smelling like cigarettes and alcohol. I'm sick of Kyle Nelson. I'm sick of Trey Ogden. I'm sick of Reese McGee. I mean, Reese McGee, what even was the game plan there against Chidi? What was the game plan? I'm sick of you. I'm sick of Reese McGee. I'm sick of the trash game plans, the trash fight IQ, the mistakes that are being made. I'm sick of the inconsistent scoring. Are we scoring damage? Are we scoring control? Or are we even watching the fight at this point? I'm sick of fence grabs, eye pokes, and apparently biting. I'm sick of the mid-card pullouts. That happens way too much. I'm sick of Victoria Dudakova. Very sick of her. I'm sick of not seeing Kim Winslow in the cage reffing. I'm sick of that bum, Yazong Hu. I'm sick. I'm sick. I'm very, very sick. I'm very, very sick. I'm very, so sick. But for real, I am very sick. Some sickness going on in my family. My wife, it hit my wife big time Thursday. Friday hit my newborn. All day Saturday, so I had to deal with that. And then I told my wife last night, I said, it's going to hit me tomorrow. It's going to hit me tomorrow. And I said, I'm not just saying this because I don't want to go over to your parents' house. It's going to hit me tomorrow. And guess what? I called it. It hit me. And it hit me hard. It hit me hard. I thought I'd be okay. I was looking forward to it, actually. I was like, okay, I can get through this. But no, it hit me and it hit me hard. So, but the show must go on, bedridden or not, bedridden or not, the show must go on. Because I didn't want to push it back. Because if I pushed it back, it probably wouldn't even happen at all. So Weezy, how are you doing? How's your vacation going?
It's going great, man. I'm in Tuscany, Italy right now. I'm in a 15th century hunting lodge that was owned by the Medicis on a beautiful rolling landscape. We're surrounded on three sides by mountains here. There's so much artwork in this house on every wall, and all of it is original and worth at least six figures. It is just absolutely incredible, the scene that I'm surrounding myself with, and it's the exact opposite of everything that happened on last night's card. And you know what, you're sick, Brady. You know what I'm sick of, Brady?
What's
ESPN
that?
Plus. I've had it. I've had it with ESPN Plus. How do you not work when you're outside the country? Huh? I pay for this garbage and I can't watch fights outside the country. The player doesn't work. So I'm trying to watch fights like last night. I'm trying to illegally stream these fights. And let me tell you something, Brady. The chat rooms, like the chat boxes that are next to, they are the worst people on the planet Earth. I have no idea who these people are, but they are god awful. I mean, I just expected so much more from the people who illegally stream mixed martial arts in the chat rooms than what I saw last night. And I expected more from crack streams and meth streams. Get some help. Your product was crap last night. And I'm not one to claim about, free stuff being bad, but it was bad.
Did you say meth streams though?
Meth streams.
Meth?
Yes, METH. Yeah, like crystal meth. Yeah, because there's crack streams, which is good. But then somebody out there was like, no, man, you know what's better? meth streams because meth's cheaper and it keeps you up for longer. So they were saying like meth streams, greater than crack streams, and then I'm going to start bath salts streams, which is going to put both of these pricks out of business. I just need a little bit of capital, maybe a GoFundMe for your Uncle Weezy, and I'm going to hook up the best mixed martial arts illegal streaming site. I'm going to move to Antigua or maybe Azerbaijan or someplace that's got very loose and loose language, let's say, on the copyright laws, because it needs to be done. I saw this. There's a need for it, Brady, is I barely got to watch those fights last night. I was down 1 unit. I had 2 bets. One of them was 1.5 units on Melissa Gatto, and her opponent doesn't even show up to take her ass shaving so that I could break even on the night. And then I had another unit on a parlay, the Ibo Aslan and Turkali under 1.5 rounds. And the 14 seconds that my stream did work in the first round there, I saw that they didn't do much of anything, which has kind of surprised me. And but the ass shaving of the week was Keelan Loughran. He had a clean performance. The dog pick of the week was Manon Firo plus 165 underdog, cashed for the people, but I didn't get that bet in. So yeah, it was just I couldn't even get bets in until I got to Italy, and only Bet Online works in Italy. So down 1 unit on only one tracked bet last week because it was just that kind of card I couldn't get bets in due to being out of the country. But either way, Clarksville, Tennessee, stand up, Brady. Our guy Nate the Train Landwehr, he did it again. What a fight that was. I actually got to see that fight. That was one of the fights that it actually worked for, and thank Ja that it did, because that was an absolute barn burner. Emmers came out hot, was looking phenomenal, and Nate just took everything he dished out and wound up finishing it at the end of the first. So I got to see a little bit of it, but man, I heard like the Weidman fight was an absolute disaster. I heard Aaron just couldn't even get a takedown on Manon, and Manon just cruised 50-45. And then there were some other interesting results, to say the least. And yeah, that steroided up leprechaun that they're letting ref fights instead of the great Kim Winslow, Brady. How the hell has this happened? Can somebody explain this to me? I mean, this guy is terrible. He's been stopping fights too soon for a long time now. And then and Kim Winslow, who lives in Nevada, she could get to those Apex cards easily. You just got to get her on a plane and fly her out to New Jersey for these. This could easily be remedied. But the UFC is sitting on their hands, and I personally, Brady, I've had enough of it.
Yeah, I have too. I mean, look at me. Look what they've done to me, Weezy.
I know.
Look what they've done to me.
And I want the chat to know, look what they've done to your Uncle Brady. Look at him over there. Look what they've done to him. Look what Kim Winslow not being in the cage has done to this poor man who doesn't do anything but give, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just tell you, he takes nothing. All he does is give. And look at him.
This is what a broken man.
He looks like death warmed over there.
This is what a broken
he looks like
man
Joe Biden.
Let's not get demonetized. Andrew's saying, just tuned in. Is Brady okay? Do I look okay? I am not okay. I think that's a good way to put it, Dixon. I think that's a great way to put it. So yeah, let me recap this card. And I think, a lot of the sickness probably does have to do with this card. My night kicked off with, I had the Colin Loughran 2-3 props, and I thought they were great bets. And, Colin Loughran took down Pacheco in the second round. He had him flattened out. And then there was a point where he landed like 30 to 40 unanswered ground strikes to the head of Pacheco. And what kind of rubbed me the wrong way is the ref wasn't even close to stopping the fight. Like the ref was like, it reminded me of a Keith Peterson reffing the Clay Guida Santos fight, where Santos let off on like a 60 punch knee elbow combination, and Keith Peterson was like go getting a beer or something. Like the ref was not even in frame while Loughran was pounding away, flattened this guy out. I thought the round 2 was so close. So good bet, but didn't cash. But I knew right then and there. I mean, it's going to be a shenanigans type night. And then Andre Petrosky gets knocked out by a takedown. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I guess the closest that reminded me to something like that was when Tony Gravely was fighting Johnny Munoz. Munoz shot in, and Gravely landed like an uppercut, but no, it was weird. Like Malkoun didn't land anything. Petrosky just like ran into his leg and got knocked out. I thought that was very weird. And then I had the early prop for Aslan. I thought Aslan was maybe KO1 or bust. And then I had late props for Turkali. Those obviously did not come through. I passed on the Bazookia Matthews fight. That was good. My only winning bet of the night was I had Julio Arce KO 2-3 combo plus 330 for 1 unit. That was great. Passed on the Loopy fight and the Emmers fight. Oh, so yeah, going into the main card, Weezy, I was actually up in profit, believe it or not. I was profiting on the prelims, and on the main card, I had only 3 bets, three fights I was betting on. So the main card kicks off, and it's Chidi and Jaquani going against Reese McKee, and I had the fight doesn't go to decision in a parlay because I love the fight doesn't go. I was like, I love this spot. I think it's a great parlay piece. I'd be shocked if this fight goes 15 minutes. And what does Reese McKee Weezy do? He goes out there and he doesn't fight. Like he goes out there and he tries to push Chidi against the cage for the first like 12 and a half minutes of the fight, which sucks. So Reese McKee was not trying to finish the fight. And then as far as Chidi, like Chidi in the first round, like when you're fighting Reese McKee, you hit him in the face. I mean, that's what he's known for. He gets hit in the face a lot. But Chidi was just throwing leg kicks. I think he landed like 30 leg kicks in the fight. And then Chidi finally started to try to finish him late in the third round, but it was far too late. So I lost 2.5 units. It was my first track parlay of the year, and it went to crap. What was next? Can't even see. My eyesight is going. Yeah, Bill Algeo, Kyle Nelson. I loved Bill Algeo. Bill Algeo was like my favorite spot on the card. People kept asking me, like, what is the lock of the week? I'll never say something's a lock, but I'm like, my favorite spot is probably Bill Algeo. And what happens? He goes out there and he gets knocked out by Kyle Nelson. Was it a bad stoppage? Yes. I know some people are saying it's a good stoppage. It was not. I went back and watched it, and yes, did Kyle Nelson hurt him? Yes, but Bill Algeo was literally talking to him, literally firing back. Was he hurt? Yeah, but you don't stop the fight because somebody's hurt. I mean, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, that hurt. I think if Kyle Nelson did not get him out of there, I think Bill Algeo would have had a good chance to take over. I really liked Rizabov round 1, but didn't play it. But that probably should have been a no contest. Rizabov poked Dumas's eye out. And then Chris Weidman, Bruno Silva, I also liked violence. I had the fight won't start round 3. It didn't happen. It started round 3. And then by the way, Chris Weidman poked Bruno Silva in the eyes like 5 times. That should have been a no contest. I mean, that was a brutal eye poke, but Chris Weidman won. I don't know. I disagree with it. And then in the co-main event, I never bet on it, but Luque pulled guard. I don't know if did you see the Bucky Luque fight, Weezy?
No, man, I didn't. That was one. I fell asleep because it was actually 5 a.m. here when the Weidman fight started, and I was like, I am not going to make it. So I just that was where I tapped out.
Dude, Luque in the second round, he pulled guard. He pulled guard. Wasn't hurt. He pulled guard and just covered up. He pulled guard and covered up. Covered up. Fight over. Ref steps in. Like, I would, it's sad to see what happened to Luque. And then the main event, I picked Fioro. I picked her by decision, but I was not expecting that. I was expecting Blanchfield to have at least a little success, but Manning 50-45. So yeah, it was a terrible card for me. Horrible card, but yeah, looking to get right back. The one thing that I'm happy about is the first quarter of the year has ended, and it's time to start this second quarter, and it's time to start it hot, Weezy. It's time to start it, and it all starts with UFC Vegas 90, which is it's a card. It's a card, and we'll be breaking it down. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, let's do it, man, because there's some interesting fights here, and we're gonna try to find some spots that we can all stack cash tickets like flapjacks here, and yeah, circle the wagons this week, because last week was it seemed to be brutal for a lot of people. I saw a couple people had good weeks, but the vast majority of the recaps that I saw on Twitter were pretty bad. So we got to try to turn it around this week.
Yeah, let's try to do it. I am gonna, after I kick this to Weezy, I'm gonna get situated. I'm gonna try to sit my ass up and get through the show, but I don't want to be bedridden the entire breakdown. So Weezy, let's kick it off. We have the first fight of the night. We have Nora Cornhole going against Melissa Dixon. We got Cornhole, 34 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. Melissa Dixon, 32 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. We got Dixon 2 years younger, same height, and it's going to be Dixon with a 1-inch reach advantage. We got Cornhole is 5-0 in her last 5 fights. She beat Jocelyn Edwards by decision in her debut. As far as Melissa Dixon, she's 5-0 in her last 5 fights. She beat Zelnikova outside the UFC in the first round. She made her debut against the very handsome Irina Alexeva and won that fight by dominant decision. Weezy, interesting fight here. Take it away. Take it. I actually don't hate this fight. I don't hate it.
Yeah, these two ladies are kind of like the same fighter, in my opinion. They both have got some power on the feet, but they don't do much there. They don't do their best work there. Both of these ladies tend to do their best work when they're bullying their opponent, throwing them on the mat, getting on top, and winning minutes there and landing ground and pound. That's what Nora Cornhole does well. That's what Melissa Mullins does well. And we saw that Mullins was able to kind of win those moments on top, win those minutes on top in the Alexeva fight when she got there, and especially in the Daria Železniakova fight in Aries FC before she got here. We saw her really take a beating on the feet early in that first round, but then come back, use that little bit of a judo trip to get the fight to the ground, get to half guard, start pounding away, and get to a dominant position and finish the fight just before the end of the first round. And that's what we see from Melissa. We see her kind of getting those body lock trips, kind of getting you going one way, shifting back the other way, getting on top, winning the minutes and moments there. And it's the same thing for Cornell. But I think the reason why this line is the way that it is that we kind of saw Cornell in her debut get bullied a little bit by Jocelyn Edwards. And that's a little bit scary because Jocelyn Edwards is somebody that is known to lose a ton of minutes in the grappling exchanges. And actually, Jocelyn out-controlled Nora Cornhole in that fight. Cornhole was awarded that decision. I don't know what happened there, but that was a brutal decision. I just watched back that fight today. I don't know how in the hell you come to giving Nora Cornhole 2 rounds in that fight, but she did not win that fight. That was one of the closest things that I could call a robbery recently in terms of that fight. Was just, that was absolutely not her fight. So I don't know. This line is wide because we know that Dixon did a great job against Irina Alexeva, but does Irina have phenomenal takedown defense? We don't even really know. Irina's very inexperienced in her own right, and we barely learned anything from her debut performance in the UFC where she won by leg lock. So, this feels like these ladies are kind of close in terms of what their skill set is. And if you look at the stats for this fight, right, Brady, we're going to look at these two ladies are similar in age, but Melissa's 2 years younger, similar height, similar reach. They're both orthodox fighters. They both have about 57, 58 minutes of total cage time. They've both been pros for less than 3 years. They both have one UFC fight and 15 minutes of UFC cage time. They both do their best work when they're winning minutes in the grappling exchanges. But what you see in the difference of that first performance for Cornhole and Dixon is right over here in the grappling stats, right? You see that Cornhole got 14% control time for, but allowed 58% control time to Jocelyn Edwards, while Melissa Dixon went out there against Irina Alexeva, and even though she only attempted 1 takedown and Irina attempted 4, it was Melissa who got 55% of the control time and only allowed 5%. So we just kind of saw Dixon win that exchange in the, with the wrestling and the ground control and the ground and pound, while Cornhole lost those exchanges. So that's why you're seeing Melissa Dixon as a pretty big favorite here, Brady. But I got to tell you, these fighters are very similar. I'm going to pick Dixon to win. Go ahead and do that. But either way, I think that laying minus 300 on Melissa Dixon's just a little bit crazy here. And let's just say what it is for what it is. Nora Cornhole was gifted a decision last time. Who's to say it doesn't happen again?
Yeah, she was. I thought she clearly lost that fight. Yeah, I'm seeing it kind of the same way. I think that Dixon will probably be able to get takedowns here. And yeah, her wrestling's not bad. And on top, she's pretty good. Like, I thought she could have finished Irina Alexeva, but decent jiu-jitsu as well, Melissa Dixon. So I think she can get this fight down to the mat. And this line's gotten smashed. When I taped this fight, I could have swore like Dixon was like minus 250 max, and now she's minus 350. So probably a fairly popular parlay piece this week, which is certainly terrifying. But yeah, I like Dixon to go out there and get this win. But yeah, minus 350 for Dixon and plus 285 for the cornhole. And this looks to be the only fight, if I'm not mistaken, Weezy, that does not have a total.
Yes, I didn't see a total for this fight, but we have them for every single other fight.
Yeah. And I remember betting the like the under in the Alexeva Dixon fight. That was horrible. Alexeva gassed like 5 minutes in. She couldn't get her out of there. But that was also the night I hit Darren Elkins round 3 against TJ Brown, though. Remember that? Remember when Darren Elkins rolled his way in his wheelchair to the apex cage and ended up beating TJ Brown?
Yeah.
It was that night. So it all worked out. But yeah, give me Dixon here. But, laying minus 350 is ill-advised for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Both ladies fairly inexperienced. If you lay that kind of juice on this type of a fight, you might wind up disappointed more times than you will not be. So, yeah, I think that this is dog or pass at the current price, because I think that these ladies are actually pretty similar fighters, and we just highlighted a number of ways in which they are.
We got Glenbot with the $5.99 saying, thanks, gents. And it was a wild card for props last week. That it was, Glenn. If you had Chris Weidman by 3rd round eye gouge, you hit a nice prop there. If you had Rudzaboa by 1st round eye gouge, you hit a nice prop there. If you had Kyle Nelson by shit stoppage, well, you hit a nice prop there as well. So yeah, it was a crazy one for sure. And yeah, looking forward to.
And if you had Malkoon by hip check.
Oh, yeah.
Hip check. What was hip check? Like plus 15,000? I mean, stand up if you had that ticket.
It was only 50-1. They were kind of onto it.
Oh, that's terrible. Who was bet online on that one?
I think they might have been onto it. So, yeah. Sometimes all you can do is laugh. I mean, that last night was one for. That's why we love the sport so much, right? Like, it's so. That's all. I mean, it's awesome. It's an awesome sport. I love breaking it down and all that.
Yeah, me too. That makes 2 of us.
None of these ladies got an OnlyFans. Yeah, I didn't think so.
God.
Maybe, if anybody, it'd be Cornhole. I think Cornhole would, if anybody. But all right, so let's keep moving on to the next fight. We got Dylan Butka going against Cesar Almeida. We got Butka, 24 years old, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach. Almeida, 36 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. Butka, 12 years younger, a 1-inch height disadvantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. Butka, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He had a decision win against Chad Hanekom, or whatever the heck his name is, in one of probably the worst fights I've ever seen in Contender Series history. And then as far as Cesar Almeida, he had a decision win as a pretty big underdog against Lucas Fernando. So what kind of surprised me in the Almeida fight is Fernando, I believe, is a black belt in BJJ, but it was actually Cesar Almeida, the kickboxer, that went out there and was like out-grappling him across 3 rounds. It was crazy. The second round was borderline 10-8, probably a 10-8. So yeah, this guy has a kickboxing background. He's known for fighting Alex Pereira 3 times in kickboxing. I think he went 1-2. So got the kickboxing background. The only question mark is that ground game, that takedown defense. I believe he's been working at Extreme Couture a little bit, which is great for takedown defense. We saw Ibo Aslan last night. He's from Extreme Couture. His takedown defense looked to lead against Pleasure Man. So yeah, I think the takedown defense of Almeida is definitely improving, but Bucka's a really good wrestler. And, Bucka certainly has a path to victory here. That's going to be getting this fight down to the mat, making the fight as boring and unbearable as possible. So I think we got like a striker versus grappler here, Weezy. On the feet, you got to favor Almeida. I think he's a really good striker with tons of power, but Dylan Bucka is a pretty dang good wrestler. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like I like this kid Almeida's striking. I mean, he's got serious power, and he's got a very extensive professional kickboxing background prior to being a mixed martial artist here. So this guy can hit hard, and all it takes is one from him. And with Dylan, you saw a guy like on Dana White's Contender Series who was actually, he was content to just wrestle the whole time and cage push. So I think that that's a very good thing if you're on that Budka side, knowing that this guy, even under circumstances where it may not behoove him to take that kind of a game plan, I kind of feel like that's the game plan that Dylan needs to take here. He doesn't want to strike with this guy Almeida at distance. That would be a fool's errand. So I think that Dylan's going to try to make this dirty, but I was surprised to see him be as big of a favorite as he is here, Brady, because this guy Almeida, all fights start on the feet. And we saw a situation where in that Dana White Contender Series fight, Lucas Fernando attempts 10 takedowns against Almeida. He gets 3 of them, right? And Almeida, he attempts 0 takedowns, but he does get 1 reverse. Well, if you look at the control time in that fight, it's almost identical. Fernando, 5 minutes, 44 seconds. Almeida, 5 minutes, 43 seconds. So even though this guy Fernando had 10 takedown attempts and Almeida had 0, Almeida had just as much control time as him. So if that trend continues here, and Budka's in there trying to cage push and trying to hold this guy up against the cage, we could see a very similar situation to what we saw in the Bulgarian C-Rod fight, where the judges just don't count 4 minutes and 15 seconds of control time and then just pretend like that never happened and that the only thing that matters is who landed 1 punch more than the other guy. And it doesn't matter how much time of control was given to the opponent. Well, in that kind of a case, it's a little bit terrifying to be laying, long, to be laying juice on a fighter like Dylan Budka, whose path is going to be the wrestling here. And we've already seen this guy Almeida with a very short career, Brady, only 4 professional fights, show some pretty good takedown defense in a high-pressure situation on Dana White's Contender Series. So I think that Cesar Almeida is a very live dog here. Dude's got a ton of power, and the way the scoring has been going lately, this one, if it does go the full 15 minutes, and the judges kind of think that it will, because I think I'm seeing plus money on the under 2.5 rounds here, you got to believe that Almeida is going to be the guy landing the heavier shots at distance. He's just the way crisper, more technical, and more powerful kickboxer.
Yeah, like you said, every fight takes place on the feet. If Almeida lands one strike, one big strike, and Budka controls him for 4 minutes and 30 seconds, maybe it doesn't matter. But I was surprised to see the line because Budka went out there and he won the fight, yeah, but he went against, like I said, that Chad Hanekom guy who I think is terrible. He gassed out in 5 minutes. It was a terrible fight as well. He won the fight, but gosh, it was hard to watch. And then as far as Cesar Almeida, I was actually impressed with his performance. Very good performance there. But yeah, Bucket certainly has a path, and that's why he's minus 170. But in an era now where we're heavily favoring that damage, pushing somebody against the cage is doing no damage. We just saw that with Reese McGee. Reese McGee was humping Chidi's leg for 10 minutes, and he lost the fight. But yeah, Budka is minus 170, and we have Cesar Almeida plus 145. And like you mentioned, the over is juiced to minus 170, and the under is plus 140. Weird seeing it over 2.5 minus 170 in a Cesar Almeida fight, but I think they're thinking if Budka wins this fight, he's kind of cage pushing his way to a decision.
Yeah, because Budka's only got 3 finishes and 7 career wins, so he's already showing to be a little bit more of a minute winner, a guy that's doing well in decisions at 4-1 in his career. So yeah, this is definitely a spot where the bookies are respecting that control time and that wrestling and that ground and pound and all around game of Budka. But I think the way the judges have been judging fights lately, Cesar Almeida is a solid dog shot here, and he's got the power, Brady. So this is one spot that I'm definitely taking a long look at here, because even though Budka's got more experience and he's the better grappler, I think Almeida's got ways to win this fight as well. And Abdi, I'm not in Paris anymore. I am now in Tuscany.
There you go. His MMA career may be short, but he has a pretty solid. Yeah, he's a ton of kickboxing. I don't know the exact number, but it's a ton. It's a pretty solid kickboxing record as well. You can find Buck at minus 155. I will not be finding him there, but yeah, you can for sure. It looked like Budka opened up a dog at plus 145, and it's just been nothing but Budka love this week. He's now minus 170. Very interesting. All right, let's keep moving on to the next fight. Oh boy, we got Dan Argueta going against Gene Matsumoto, we got Argueta, 30 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. Matsumoto, he's 24 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. Matsumoto is 6 years younger, 1 inch height disadvantage, same reach there. Dan Argueta, he is 2. And wasn't that John's fight called a no contest as well just recently?
Oh, yeah, that was overturned, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was overturned. So he actually has his last 2 fights being no contest, which I think is super interesting, right? And then as far as Matsumoto, he's 5-0 in his last 5 fights, had a decision win against Casey Tanner. Weezy, what are your fights about this bantamweight fight here?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Matsumoto is a very interesting little prospect here. Guy's got been a Muay Thai competitor since the age of 5, trained by his father, kind of picked up jiu-jitsu a little bit later when he realized that he wanted to go into MMA. And, he had a really impressive victory over a tough Casey Tanner on Dana White's Contender Series, where he really showed some nice pocket boxing, really great combinations, good footwork, speed, really good defensive instincts as well on the feet. But as Bisping and like the announcers in that fight, they were just filleting this young man for the full 15 minutes. I mean, like, they were talking about how he's like the second coming of Christ. You go and you look at the stats in that fight, it was a fairly close fight. Casey Tanner got a couple of takedowns, didn't do a ton with them. But, it was like Matsumoto outlanded this kid Tanner like by 10 significant strikes, like 104 to 95 or something like that. So as good of a performance as it was by Matsumoto, I'm not exactly sure it was as good as the cage side announcers were saying it was. And now you got a guy in Argueta who's another similar type of opponent to Casey Tanner here, but Casey Tanner was saying that he was sick as a dog the day of that fight. So he didn't perform at even like 50% of what he normally would have had he been okay. But, the excuses happen after fights. You never know how much you can really trust those excuses. Sometimes people just have a bad day. Or sometimes, maybe Matsumoto was just too much for this kid. But either way, we didn't see Casey wrestle as much as I thought we would. And I think that we're going to see that from Dan, though. Dan Argueta is going to wrestle here. He's the fighting pride of Orland Park, Illinois, Brady, and that's got to count for something. And good high school wrestling background on Dan, good all-around fighter, already a little bit more experienced than Gene at the UFC level at least, but Gene actually has a couple of more pro fights in comparison to Dan here. So, I think the easy way to break this one down, Brady, is, Matsumoto probably wins the minutes on the feet here. And if Argueta can get the wrestling game going, get this fight to the ground, advance to dominant positions like we saw him do in the Ronnie Lawrence fight, I think that he could be really good in this spot as well. And who knows, the Miles Johns loss, Brady. I mean, I've heard people say different things. I've heard people say that Miles tested positive for his Adderall, right? And then I've heard other people say it was performance enhancers, but it was only a 6-month suspension. So usually, if you're not getting a year or 2 years, it means that it wasn't necessarily anabolic steroids, but more of a banned substance or a tainted supplement or something like that. So I think it'd be good to know if Miles was actually on the gas for that win, or whether he kind of just got busted like Mayra Bueno Silva did, getting off of his ADD medication too soon before the fight, or too late, I should say, before the fight. So that's something to figure out here. But, I think the takedown defense of Matsumoto is going to be tested. And we saw Casey, when he did go to the wrestling, get 2 of the 3 takedowns that I saw him get deep in on. He got 2 of them. He got a really nice knee tap. He had a really nice single leg as well, and he got in on a double leg where he was in deep, but Matsumoto showed great hips and stopped that takedown attempt. So I've got to lean Argueta here on this one, just because he's more experienced, because I know that he can land some big shots on the feet as well as Matsumoto having to worry about the wrestling attack as well. So you got a debuting fighter here who's very young, and Matsumoto, still only 24 years old, could have a little bit of nerves, could have that, debut bed-shitting performance that some fighters do. We could name the list of fighters, Brady. It's 30
who was that
or 40
guy that who was that guy that had rabies the other week and bit somebody? Oh,
Oh, that was that was Igor da Silva, the 20-year-old kid, nervous as hell, goes out there in a fight that's back and forth. He's not having the most success, and he bites the guy underneath the arm. What the hell was he thinking?
Could see that here.
You know?
Yeah.
So you just never know how these younger fighters are going to handle, their first UFC fight. And Dan Arquette has definitely been there before, and he's been in there against some good names. I mean, he destroyed Ronnie Lawrence. Got a great win against Nick Aguirre, a split decision win against Diego Silva outside the organization. And then the Jackson fight, he actually performed pretty admirably, seeing as he took that fight up a weight class on short notice. Yeah, man, I think Arquette is going to be a tough opponent. I think he's going to wrestle, and I think he's going to make this a grinding affair. And I think that this is probably dog or pass, depending on where the line is. Let's see where it is.
Yeah, we got Matsumoto opened up as a plus 120 dog. He's now minus 185. Dan Arquette opened up minus 140. He's currently plus 160. So Arquette is a decent sized dog here.
Yeah, I think that could be an opportunity as well. I like the plus money on Cesar Almeida. I kind of like the plus money on Nora Cornhole at like plus 275. That's intriguing. Plus money females is a nice long-term strategy. And on this one, I think this is dog or pass, especially with the debuting fighter in Matsumoto, who we haven't seen much of a ground game from yet.
Yeah, absolutely. The over is completely juiced to minus 260 to that over, and then the unders plus 200. So I'm right there with you. I think it's a dog or pass. He was not on cocaine. There were a lot of outlets that did post that, but they were wrong.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Rusty. Walker Dixon parlay minus 133. Please do not do something like that. Let's see here. What is up, Stacks? What is up? Matsumoto is giving you Steven Wynn vibes. I could see it. All right. So yeah, I think there's a couple live dogs thus far. That's for sure. We'll move on to the next fight. We have Alateng Heili going against Victor Hugo. We got Alateng Heili, 32 years old, 5'5" with a 66-inch reach. Hugo, 31 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. We got Hugo 1 year younger, 2-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage. Alateng Heili, he is 2-1 his last 5 fights. Decision loss to Casey Kenny. Draw against Gustavo Lopez. Knockout win against Kevin Kroom. Decision win against Chad Hellinger. Then a decision loss against Chris Gutierrez. As far as Victor Hugo, had a second-round submission win on the Contender Series. And should be a solid fight here, Weezy. We got another debuting fighter, and Victor Hugo had a pretty solid performance on the Contender Series, got a nice submission win against Alateng Heili, who we've seen in the UFC for some time now. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. And I mean, I don't blame you, Brady, but you did skip over the Calvillo fight, and I mean, I see why. Trust me, I get it, so we'll have to come back to that one. But I'm not going to let you get away with skipping that because that's the people's main event, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not fired up for a Cynthia Calvillo fight, time to check out. Just stick your head in the oven. It's all over for you. You have no joy left in life. But this is going to be an interesting one. With Heili, you got an experienced guy who hits hard, who can mix in the wrestling, looks for that big shot. Kind of a minute loser, though. That's the thing. Look at Heili Alateng's negative 2.03 distance striking differential. Look at that pathetic 32.43% distance striking accuracy. He couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. The defense is okay. And, both of these guys have got a good amount of experience. 27 pro fights for Alateng, 28 for Victor Hugo, almost 500 minutes of combined cage time between these two guys and over 22 years of combined pro experience. So these guys are both pretty good. But with Hugo, you see a guy that's got 10 submissions and 7 knockouts. While Alateng does have 3 submissions on his record, I don't think he's ever submitted a guy that had a pulse. While Hugo's just been around for a long time and he's finally getting that chance. So I think it's going to be interesting because Alateng's been here for a while, right? I mean, we see him. He's got a significant UFC experience advantage here with 7 more fights and 90 more minutes of cage time. So he's been here. He's fighting guys that have about a 500 record here at 23-23. He's beating guys that have got 9 wins and 15 losses in the UFC. And losing to guys like Casey Kenny and Chris Gutierrez. So, Alateng is going to be a stiff test for Victor, because Alateng is not a guy that you're going to take down and hold down if he doesn't want you to do that. And while you're on the feet, you might win the minutes against him, but if he catches you with something big, he just kind of has to do that in 2 out of 3 rounds, and he can just lose the rest of the minutes and still steal a decision from you, like he did against Denab Bakary when he got those takedowns in the 3rd round of that fight. So, yeah, I mean, I think that Victor is a guy who's a little bit more well-rounded, a little bit more explosive for sure. You have to worry about this guy going for a leg lock and getting one of those leg locks on you. And like Dixon said, you know, his nickname is Striker, but this guy loves to grapple and he loves to go for leg locks. So he's got one of those, you know, confusing nicknames on purpose, where he uses that nickname to try to get you into the wrong mindset to handle the strengths of his game. Very chess master of him, you know, to have that kind of mental warfare. Something you don't see often in this game. So I think it's an interesting stylistic matchup. I think, you know, Hugo is going to be live to, you know, land something that could change this fight, or, you know, like get deep submission attempts. But I think, you know, I don't really have a faith in either one of these guys at this point right now. This is kind of a mystery to me here. Do you have any words of wisdom for your Uncle Weezy?
I do, but we'll talk about this fight first. So what I found interesting when taping this fight for Contender Series was, like, this dude's nickname is Striker. I go and watch the guy's fights looking forward to some striking, you know, some good high level striking. And the very first fight I watched, he shoots a takedown like in the first 10 seconds. I'm like, what are you talking about? Your nickname is Striker. He changed his nickname to like Grappler, and then I watched the next fight. He's shooting a takedown within the first 15 seconds. I'm like, what sense does this make? So that kind of pissed me off. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But at the same time, it's hard to pick Alateng Heili, man. He doesn't do anything. He goes in there and he just doesn't do anything. He doesn't throw anything. He has power, but he's getting outlanded in pretty much every single fight. Yeah, I'm with you in terms of I don't know what to do with this matchup. I was actually looking at Hugo Silva. He was around even money. I was considering it just because Alateng Heili, it's tough to pick him really against many people. And I actually was impressed with Silva in a lot of his fights, with his grappling especially. But yeah, it could be a toughest matchup in a sense where he does have Alateng does have really good takedown defense. So it's an interesting one, but I do lean Silva. I think he's going to get the better of the grappling. And I think in terms of the striking, it probably could be close. I haven't seen much of Silva's striking, but at the same time, Alateng just stands there and does nothing. But yeah, Silva opened up plus 130. He was sitting around like minus 115 for a while, and then he's now minus 127. And then Alateng Heili opened up minus 150, and he's currently a plus 107 underdog. Yeah, the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. I'd be interested in an under here. The under opened up minus 155. It's currently minus 115, and then the over is minus 115 as well. So I wouldn't mind like an under. Like Hugo goes under quite a bit. Let's see. How many times has this guy been a decision?
Victor's been a decision actually 8 times in 28 fights. So yeah, you're looking at about 70% finish rate here for Hugo and a 30% decision rate. And he's been finished in 3 of his 4 losses, and Heili's been finished in 4 of his 9 losses. So these guys do get finished about half the time on the aggregate.
Yeah. So I don't hate violence at a pick 'em. I don't hate it, but not something I'm running to the window for. Hugo usually wins by finish. Yeah, like we just said, like a 70% finish rate there. We got Kawhi Perks. He said he's smoking on some gas. There you go. Smoke it up. Reminds me of Neto BJJ.
Yeah. Who never tries to take anybody down, and he just swings hammers. It's a great one. Yeah.
It's like, is he trying to like fool his opponents? Like he's getting announced as striker, and then he goes out there and shoots a double leg in the first 10 seconds, catches him off guard. I mean, it's a bold strategy, but it's one that seems to be paying off for this guy. Gus has 2 units on Hugo early, minus 120 because of the finishing upside and the grappling. I think this gets juiced right. It's trending that I'm not sure if it gets juiced, but it's certainly trending towards the Hugo side, I'd say. And I'm on that side as well. Not sure if I'll get there for a bet. And Mushroom says 7-1 decisions. That's pretty good for Hugo, right?
Yeah, 7-1. I mean, and Alateng's got a plus record in decisions as well. He's 8-5-2, but 7-1 is way better than 8-5-2. And it's not like Alateng was fighting these studs on the regional scene that were much better than what Victor Hugo was fighting.
Yeah. Alateng is the decision machine. Yes, unless he's fighting Kevin Kroom. Remember when he knocked out Kroom in like 47 seconds?
Yeah, I do remember that. I remember, like, I think I had the over 2.5 there, and I was just, ripping that ticket up pretty quick.
I had something worse. I had a bet on Kevin Kroom. Can you believe it?
It happens sometimes, man. You think if the guy can steal Tim Elliott's wife, he can win a fight against that bum, and yeah, he disappoints you in so many ways.
Yeah, if only he was Tim Elliott, he would have went out there and probably beat him.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yep, 100%. All right. Let's see. Is that true? That's not true. That's not right. Is that?
It couldn't be, dude.
That'd be.
Couldn't be. Marcel got us, man. He got us.
You got. All right, Weezy, let's go back to this shit fight. What do you say? We got Piera Rodriguez going against Cynthia Calvillo. We got Piera Rodriguez, 31 years old, 5'3" with a 63-inch reach. Cynthia Calvillo, 36 years old. I'm about to pass out breaking this shit fight down. 36 years old, 5'4" with a 64-inch reach. We got Rodriguez 5 years younger. Calvillo with a 1-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. Piera Rodriguez 4-1 her last 5 fights. Made her debut against Kay Hansen, won that fight by decision. Beat Sam Hughes by decision, and then lost to Jillian Robertson by submission. As far as Cynthia Calvillo, 0-5 in her last 5 fights. Decision loss to Chukagan, knockout loss to Andrade and Lee. Decision loss against Nunez, and then a decision loss against Lupe Godinez. So this fight's so hard to break down, and it really shouldn't be, because at the end of the day, how can you possibly pick Cynthia Calvillo to win a fight? But nothing impressed with Piera Rodriguez at all. It's just, again, how can you pick Cynthia Calvillo to win a fight at this point? It all started with that Chukagan loss. That wasn't a good look. The Andrade knockout loss in the first round, that was a terrible look. It looked like she was looking for a way out, looking to quit in that fight. And then she did quit in the Andrea Lee fight. And after she quit in that fight, I'm like, okay, this is, she's probably going to retire. I don't think we'll see her again after that. She quit on the stool. And then she shows up against Nina Nunez, and I'm like, okay, this is her retirement fight. It's got to be. She loses that fight, and then they give her another fight. It's like, what's going on? And then she loses to Lupe, and it's like, you going to retire yet? Or are they going to cut her yet? I mean, she's on a 5-fight skid. I think she's like 1-7 her last 8 fights, something terrible like that. But what I will say, Weezy, is Calvillo lost that fight, but I thought she could potentially won that fight. I mean, that fight was pretty dang close. I remember watching that fight thinking, holy crap, Lupe did it again. The striking was very close, round 2, round 3. I think Calvillo got even like a takedown or two. I was close. You could have scored that for Calvillo. So that was probably her best performance out of the last 5 fights, was against Lupe not too long ago. I don't know, Weezy. This kind of feels like that South Park episode where it's like, they had to vote between a giant douche and a turd sandwich. It's like Rodriguez is the giant douche and Calvillo's the turd sandwich. Pick your poison, but one's plus money, so that's where I'll go. But I doubt I'll touch this fight. Weezy, what do you like in here?
Right now, I feel really bad for Andrew Whitsack in the chat, because he's saying something that we've all said over Calvillo's last 7 fights, and that's Calvillo has a grappling path, and this woman refuses to grapple, and she has that path. It's definitely there. We just saw Piera Rodriguez get taken down and armbarred by Jillian Rodriguez with a quickness. And if you were betting that Calvillo side, I can guarantee you what's going to happen. I'm just going to pull out the crystal ball right now. You're going to be saying she has a grappling path, and then you're going to throw that crystal ball through your television about halfway through round 2 when she shot 0 takedowns and is hitting nothing but fresh air with hook attempts. It's going to be ugly, Brady. I mean, let me tell you something. My money going nowhere near this fight. I am not doing it. This is how we get better at life, is by just making life easier and not looking for don't look for the avenues to be the guy that calls it. I'm telling you, Cynthia's subbing her, because God, it's just so frustrating to watch her. She's going out there against ladies that she absolutely should be grappling against, and she's striking against them. Reminds me of, I don't know, Corey McKenna. Where does she train?
Team Alpha.
Team Alpha Male? Where does Cynthia Calvillo train? Team Alpha Male? Dude, when you see somebody go out there and fight with an absolute bonehead game plan, there's like a 2/3 chance that it's a Team Alpha Male fighter and like a 75% chance that it's a female, you know? And with Cynthia Calvillo, you got somebody that's both. And probably coached by Danny Castillo, who's telling her, your jab looks snappy and fast. Go out there and use that jab against who? Nina Nunez, a kickboxing champion? Come on, man. So, yeah, I mean, Cynthia's supposed to wrestle, but I think she's too big for the weight class. I think she cuts too much weight, and then she just can't wrestle effectively for long periods of time due to cutting too much weight to make to 115. So, I mean, I can't. God, I could, if I wake up from a nightmare this morning, it's going to be me having a 5-unit bet on Cynthia Calvillo somehow that I don't know how I made, but it all of a sudden it winds up on Twitter, and I wake up and people are like, why are you betting 5 units on Cynthia Calvillo? And I was talking shit about it too, and then I'm just stuck with it. My words have gotten me in deep, Brady, and I can't talk my way out of it. Now I just got to hope for the best, knowing that Calvillo will shoot 0 takedowns and get her face jabbed in by Pereira for the full 15. So no thanks, man. No thanks.
Yeah. I think you summed it up. All you had to say, you had a really good breakdown. I loved it. All you had to really say was no thanks. That's it.
I know.
All you had to say.
We were looking for an economy of words today, ladies and gentlemen, so we can get Brady back to bed. The poor guy is dying in here. All he does is give, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Yeah, I give, and what do I receive?
Yeah. You receive, Chris Weidman being called a decision winner after poking him in the eye 5 times. That's what you get.
That's what I get indeed. Let's see here. What do we got in the chat? She trains like everywhere though. Like she's trained all around. Like she's been right.
I mean, yeah, she has. She's Tiger Muay Thai, but Team Alpha Male. I think the last time we saw her out there was Team Alpha Male, and she went out there and drowned Loopy in volume. She threw over 300 significant strike attempts, actually 333 of them. And just kind of outboxed her, just outlanded her, but still lost the decision because, Cynthia, you're not really a boxer. You're supposed to be a grappler, and you refuse to do that. So you're on the shit list. You made Uncle Weezy's list, the no bet list.
Yeah, I have a couple fighters on that. Loopy was on it, and Emmers was on it. Luckily, I did not bet either of those two last night. That was my one bright shining moment last night, is not betting on those. Let's see here. Shout to Verna, absolutely. Cynthia Calvillo is going to pull a Weidman and eye poke her way to a ref. Yeah, you might as well. If you're fighting Weezy, you might as well just poke him in the eye and get a free win, right? Like that's the strategy going forward.
Yeah, and then if the ref takes a point, then you just go full rabies and try to finish from that point. I mean, it's not the worst idea in the world. It's going to be easier to hit your opponent with big shots after you scratch a cornea or detach a retina.
Yeah, and that's funny. You said take a point. That's not happening anytime soon. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
Take a point. Crazy. When's the last time we saw something like that? I don't see it. But I think we should move on from this mess and let's move on to another. I almost skipped this as well on accident. We got the great return of Germaine de Randamie going against Norma Dumont. We got GDR. She's 39 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. Dumont, 33 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. Dumont, 6 years younger, 2-inch height disadvantage and a 4-inch reach disadvantage. Dumont is 4-1 her last 5 fights. Decision win against Aspen Ladd, a Macy Chase on decision loss, and then back-to-back decision wins against Danielle Wood, Carol Hosa, and Chelsea Chandler. As far as GDR, she is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Decision win against Holly Holm, decision win against Raquel Pennington, knockout win against Aspen Ladd, decision loss against Amanda Nunez, and then a submission win against Juliana Pena. And when I saw that GDR was fighting again, I'm like, what the heck? I thought she was actually like 40 something. I was thinking of like Marin Renault. I get them confused sometimes. They kind of look alike. But no, she's only 39, but still, she's turning 40 like in a couple weeks there. The last time we saw GDR was 3 years and 5 months ago. Like I remember that Aspen Ladd knockout win. It was the fight where Aspen Ladd was like crying on the scales. Like she was literally crying on the scales, and I was like all over GDR because again, Aspen Ladd was like crying on the scales. And that was almost 5 years ago at this point. It feels like yesterday. It was like almost 5 years at this point. So GDR has been, inactive. That's an understatement. She's been very inactive. I think she has like a couple kids at this point. Like, I'm not sure what she's been doing. I know she had at least one kid, but I went to her Instagram. Looks like she has a couple. I don't know. Like, if we get the best version of GDR, yeah, she wins. But like, what are we supposed to expect? 3.5 years later at 40 years old. Like, so it's either do you want to pick the 40-year-old who just had a kid or two taking a 3.5-year layoff, or do you want to lay minus 190 on Norma Dumont? And quite frankly, I don't want to do either. I don't want to do either, Weezy.
Dude, it's a tough one, because if you're betting money on Germaine Randamie, you have to prepare for the fact that she's showing up for a check, because that's a very real possibility. You don't take 3.5 years off from this sport in your late 30s thinking you're going to come back and win a championship. But the funny thing is that she actually could. This division sucks.
Yeah,
Dude, it's such a bad division. There is no talent in this division. And frankly, Germaine Randamie has already cleaned out this division. There's nobody that's top of this division that she hasn't already beaten. Raquel Pennington, beaten. Juliana Pena, beaten. Holly Holm, beaten. The only lady she's lost to since 2013, and that's 2 times, is the great Amanda Nunes. Everybody else, Germaine is beating them. And, Norma's a good control time grappler, but she's not phenomenal. And Brady, I don't care if she had 6 kids. Norma Dumont is not winning a striking match against Germaine Randamie. Plain and simple. That is not fucking happening. Germaine Randamie has forgotten more about striking than Norma Dumont has ever learned. Germaine is elite, a Muay Thai world champion. I mean, like, her 1-2 down the pipe is crisp, powerful, fast, accurate. If this stays on the feet, Germaine should, whether or not she's showing up for a check, should easily win this fight. But that's a big butt, right? And we got 2 big butts in that fight. That big butt, and then we got Norma Dumont on the other side of the cage. And Dump Truck Dumont, she's got a spectacular can on her. And if she does wind up getting this fight to the cage, to the mat, she's going to win some minutes there, but she's going to need to do a lot. You know what I'm saying? She's not just going to be able to lay on top of her and just kind of like let the clock roll, because we've seen how the judging has been lately, really controlling or giving us that damage over control lean that we've seen lately. So there's so many unanswered questions about which version of Germaine Randamie we're going to get in this fight. So it's probably a good fight to stay away from him. But I don't feel like laying minus 180 on Norma Dumont is a good idea. That could go tits up real quick in this fight.
Yeah. A lot could go tits up here. Dixon bringing up Norma Dumont is the first OnlyFans fade of the card. I didn't listen with Bill Algio. Maybe it's
I mean, neither did I, but I picked Algio to win.
Yeah. Does she have an OnlyFans, Dumont? I can't find anything. Does she, Dixon? I don't know. You're the expert, not me, in OnlyFans, so I couldn't find anything involving an OnlyFans, though. Maybe I got to look harder. Let's see here. Ends in split. Yeah. I like Mushroom's play. Ends in disappointment. Fight goes to disappointment.
Yeah, that could certainly happen, man, especially if it's just a cage pushing battle for 15 minutes because GDR is hard to take down and hold down. I mean, we've seen Amanda Nunes do it a lot, but outside of that, it's hard to win minutes against her in the clinch, especially because she's such a talented Muay Thai striker. Her elbows and knees are fantastic in there. And if you go into that wood chipper with her voluntarily, you better get the takedown because if you don't, she's going to cut you up. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what GDR has left in the tank at this point.
That's it. Oh, yes, she does, baby. I mean, it looks like it's like a fight camp OnlyFans though, from what I'm seeing. So it doesn't. I don't see
doesn't
any.
even matter. Like Billy Q had a free OnlyFans and he got smoked. I mean, it's not like Bill Algeo was like doing dick pics or anything like that either. I mean, so he wound up losing in the first round. Wild stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is certainly wild. Certainly wild. Yeah, my name is Deshaun. He's looking forward to the wins. You're sick, Deshaun. You're a sick man. All right. The curse is the curse. That's fair, Dixon. You nailed it last week. Although, didn't you say Bazookia had an OnlyFans, which shocked me, by the way. So, if that's true, OnlyFans, the Fade still went 2-1, which is really good, but. And Victor saying that there's no need to bet on this fight. If you're thinking about it, please call 1-800-GAMBLER before locking it in. Maybe they'll help you find the book with the best odds. Yeah, if I ever thought of betting on a fight like this, I would probably be time to hang it up and do something else with my life. All right, Weezy, I say we move on. And we didn't talk about the odds because, why should we? But let's do it. Dumont's minus 190. That's hilarious, dude. Minus 190? No. GDR's plus 165.
Yeah. I think that has to do with the fact that she's so much younger. I mean, we're talking about how many years of age difference here? 6 years, 6.5 years of age difference. And just, I mean, obviously Norma probably fought 5 times since the last time we saw Germaine in the cage, or maybe even 6 or 7. So, yeah, this is an interesting situation to say the least. 3.5-year layoff for Germaine Randamie. Who knows what's going to happen with her?
Yeah, I mean, if we were talking ass, I mean, Dumont would probably be minus 1,000. She might probably be the biggest favorite.
I don't know what bookie would have the balls to put out a line if we were just betting on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
that's normal. 6 days a week and twice on Sundays, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, they'd have to do maybe a point spread or an ass spread type bet.
Yeah, it'd be like a teaser.
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
In more way than one, right?
Because the money line would not be wide enough with an ass like that. That's for sure.
Yep, agreed. No doubt about it.
Without the age issues and all the other issues, GDR is minus 200. Yeah, probably. If this was GDR a couple years ago in her prime, yeah, sure, decent sized favorite. But that is not the case. Is the thing? It's not. We haven't seen her in almost 4 years. It's crazy. I was shocked to see this fight was even happening. All right, Weezy, let's move on to the next fight. We have 2 veterans going after it. We got Court McGee going against Alex Morono. We got Court McGee, 39 years old, 5'11" with a 75-inch reach. Alex Morono, 33 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. We got Morono 6 years younger, same height, and it's going to be a 2-inch reach advantage for the Court McGee. Court McGee's 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss to Carlos Condit. Decision win against Claudio Silva. Decision win against Ramiz Brahimaj. Knockout loss to Jeremiah Wells. Knockout loss to Matt Brown. Alex Morono, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Mickey Gall. Matthew Sebelsberger. I'm dying over here. Knockout loss to Santiago Ponzinibbio. Submission win against Tim Means. And then a decision loss to Joaquin Buckley. So what's interesting with Court McGee, man, is we always talked about his durability, right? But I think it might be gone. I mean, he's got knocked out his last 2 fights. He's been dropped a lot in the UFC as well. But it's when he's losing, he's typically losing by decision. But I think his chin is finally cracked, and he got knocked out, flatlined by Matt Brown, 41-year-old Matt Brown. Not the best look. Jeremiah Wells, we can forgive him for that, but still, that was kind of a surprise to me as well. So yeah, I think the durability of McGee is waning a little bit. He's 39 years old, almost 40. So I definitely like Morono to win the fight. It's just somebody in the chat said it. I feel like Alex Morono shouldn't be minus 400 against anybody ever. So I don't know. I mean, this is just probably a pass for me. How can you lay minus 400 on Alex Morono? I can. I mean, I like him to win, but do you really think he should be this much of a favorite? I don't know.
So I need your help, dude. Every goddamn time, Brady, I break down a Court McGee fight. I always say, what? If this dude would just wrestle, if he would just wrestle, for the love of God, Court McGee, just fucking wrestle. Just wrestle. Brady, are you trying to win or are you trying to get knocked out? Every time this guy takes somebody down, they stay there. He lands big ground and pound. He's got phenomenal control time when he gets fights to the ground. You know, like remember Ramiz Brahimaj, you know, was like this big grappling superstar and Court just absolutely washed him on the ground. And then we said, oh, it's a good performance. He could do the same thing to Jeremiah Wells. Nope. 0 takedown attempts, 1 knockout. Oh, but Matt Brown's 41. Court, just wrestle. Just what happened, Brady? Did he wrestle?
No.
No. And what happened when he didn't wrestle?
Got knocked out. I was there live. It was brutal.
It was really bad, right? And what's Alex Morono's takedown defense, Brady?
Ass.
Yeah. 50% is ass, ladies and gentlemen. And I mean, we knew we want to look at Morono. We know he's not an athletic dude. He's not going to just, you know, like push your head in the canvas if you wind up shooting in on him. Court absolutely has a path here. But if I start telling you later on in the week, dude, the line's gotten too, please just call the orderlies on me. I am not losing another year off of my life sitting in front of my television on a Saturday afternoon screaming over and over and over again, Court, will you please just fucking wrestle? And then the phone goes flying. The remote goes flying. The animals get nervous. You know, they say, what's wrong with Uncle Weezy? And you know, and my wife will just say, yeah, he bet on fucking Court McGee again. He just doesn't fucking listen.
Yeah. 100%, man. I have a question for you. So, a little trivia, Weezy.
Okay.
You ready? So, Court McGee in 2020, he took on Carlos Condit, right? And Carlos Condit has one of the worst takedown defenses in the UFC, 38% on paper.
Yeah.
How many takedowns did Court McGee attempt in that fight?
Exactly the same amount of bets that I cashed on that fight because I said, Court's going to wrestle.
Why not?
Right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, why would you strike with Carlos Condit when Court's wrestling is phenomenal and Carlos Condit has the worst takedown defense in the history of the division? Guess who lost a unit on Court McGee? Your Uncle Weezy. And I've said it over, and I keep going to the goddamn well to bet this guy. Now, I cashed against Brahimaj. That was great. I cashed against Claudio Silva. That was great, but I got served when I bet on him against Jeremiah Wells. I got served when I bet on him against Matthew Brown. And now it's going to happen again because this time they're giving me this fat plus money number. And I'm going to get let out of my house by orderlies, you know, completely passed out because they shoot me up with drugs. And then I'm going to wind up in a padded room. And I'm not going to have anything to throw at the TV when I see the Court has 0 takedowns in the 3rd round and he's getting his face boxed off.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to end up in a padded room one day. I feel like that's kind of the direction I'm trending, like a padded room. It kind of sounds nice right now after last night, like a nice padded room. Can't hurt yourself or anybody around you. It sounds nice.
It's not the worst thing in the world, Brady. You know, you can kind of get inside your own head, have those difficult conversations with yourself about what went wrong in life. You know, and we can't get better, Brady, unless we have those difficult conversations with ourselves.
Yeah, and what went wrong? Well, betting on Lupe Godinez and Jamal Emmers and Kurt Hollaball, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. That's why I ended up in a padded room in a straitjacket, ladies and gentlemen, betting on Gina Mazzani at chalk. But yeah, while the breakdown was going on, money actually came in on Court McGee. Morono's now not minus 350 anymore. He's minus 285, and Court McGee's plus 245. This line is still shocking to me. I mean, I gotta go Morono, but again, Morono shouldn't be minus 300 probably against anybody, even like a 40-year-old Court McGee. So it's a dog or pass, but like you said, laying on money on Court McGee's kind of scary as well. So yeah, it's a big pass for me. This fight probably goes over, but at the same time, it's like, Court, can you take a shot at this point? I'm not sure. The over 2.5 is only minus 140, which typically I'd love because both these guys are typically durable. But again, Court McGee kind of wondering where that durability is currently at.
Yeah, man. Look, I don't think anybody's ever subbing Court McGee. Dude, it's never happened. He's never been subbed. You know, when you look at the list of dudes that this dude has fought, his grappling is so underrated. If he wrestled in every round of this fight, Brady, he would probably be the best dog of the week by a country mile. And I'd probably have 2 units on him at plus 275. And I'd be laughing my ass off when he cruised to a unanimous decision and just whitewashed this dude on the ground. But that is probably not going to happen. And Alex Morono is going to beat 7 shades of shit out of him for the full 15 minutes if he doesn't knock him out late.
Yeah. I wonder if, Alex Morono has an OnlyFans. I could see it potentially.
Oh, God. Bag of milk fans.
What? I could see he's a good looking guy.
Well, he's a good looking guy. I mean, but like just his body compared to most like UFC fighters is just not what you would call like, oh, look at that. I mean, that guy's a UFC fighter. He doesn't look like one, but he's a phenomenal fighter all around. I mean, all the numbers on Alex Morono say that. I mean, 12-6 in the UFC, 19 UFC fights, 220 minutes in the cage, positive 0.85 distance striking differential, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Dude's a badass. He just doesn't look like your typical UFC badass.
Dixon said he checked, which I think that's hilarious because I believe you. I believe that you looked up Alex Morono OnlyFans. I believe that. I could see it. Trying
Great
to man
stuff.
him. He's a handsome dude. I mean, and by the way, Weezy, I mean, I think we get the impression that he looks out of shape in a lot of his fights because he's taking a lot of these fights on short notice, right? Like,
yeah.
When he does have a full camp, he does not look like a bag of milk. I mean, he looks solid there. So,
yeah, that's true. Very true.
Like he loves short notice. Is this one short notice because he takes a ton of them? Is the thing.
No, I don't think so. I think this one is. Or wait a second. You know what? I'll have to look. It's on Tapology.
It'd be hilarious if it is. They did a weird Tapology update. It's hard to find stuff now. Did you notice that?
Yeah, it's weird, but this does look like it's the original fight for this one. McGee Morono was the original fight that was made.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hate to see Dixon's like browsing history. I mean, gosh, it's gonna be terrifying. He looked up large dumper Dumont. I could see it. That's the last thing he looked up. I could see it, man. All right, Weezy, let's keep moving on. We have a banger, finally. I feel like we've been breaking down this card for an hour and 13 minutes, and we're finally getting a very, very fun fight. And how can you not be excited about this one? We got Charlie Campbell going against Trevor Peek. We got Trevor Peek, 29 years old, 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. Charlie Campbell, 28 years old, 6 foot with a 72.5-inch reach. Campbell's 1 year younger. Campbell with a 3-inch height advantage and a 2.5-inch reach advantage. Peek is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He had a knockout win in the first round against Eric Gonzalez, second round knockout on the Contender Series, decision loss to Jose Mariscal, and then a decision win against Muhammad Yahya his last time out. As far as Charlie Campbell, he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He had a knockout loss on the Contender Series in the first round against Chris Duncan, and then he beat poor Alex Reyes in the first round his last time out. So this is a fight where it's like, who's the better fighter? I mean, it's Charlie Campbell by a mile, but that doesn't always matter, right? Like Trevor Peek's one of those guys that is just the definition of a dog, the definition of heart, durability. He may not have the best skill. He may not have the best technique, but he's somebody that's going to go out there and just be super tough. Just an absolute dog in there. What I found interesting though was against Muhammad Yahya, we saw like a different version of Peek in that fight. We didn't see a shit-eating wild man in that fight. We saw a more composed Trevor Peek, which kind of sucked considering I had like a violence bet there. But it was a very like uneventful fight. It was like a boring fight, that Trevor Peek Yaya fight. Like not a ton went on. Believe it or not, Weezy, at distance, Trevor Peek only landed 50 strikes, only attempted 83, which I think is kind of crazy considering in his debut against Eric Gonzalez, he landed 51 strikes just in the first round. So we saw like a more composed version of Charlie Campbell. And if he fights composed against Muhammad Yahya, if he fights more composed against Charlie Campbell like he did against Yahya, I think he gets beat pretty easily. Like if you're Trevor Peek, you got to be a shit-eating wild man. I don't think he has the skill to go out there and go strike for strike with Charlie Campbell. So it's a very interesting fight. I'm a big Trevor Peek fan. I'm sure you are. How can you not be a big Trevor Peek fan? But
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this fight. What are your thoughts on it, Weezy?
Yeah, it's probably my favorite fight on the card. I mean, when I first saw this fight announced, the first thing that came to my mind was Charlie Campbell versus Chris Duncan on Dana White's Contender Series. I could see this fight playing out the exact same way because Campbell's a guy that's going to be the more accurate, more deadly striker at distance, and I could just see him landing big shot after big shot after big shot on Peek. Peek just not going away. Charlie like stepping back 1 second to take one deep breath to try to finish him, and then just getting caught with something and just flatlining. And I mean, if that fight with Duncan hadn't happened, Charlie Campbell would be 9-1 at this point and would have been in the UFC a lot sooner because of that spectacular performance, that wound up not winning him a contract because he got knocked out against Chris Duncan. But this guy's a wild man. He's fun to watch, and he hits super hard, Brady, but he's also got some really slick Brazilian jiu-jitsu to go along with the power and the slick striking on the feet. So I think he is a little bit better than Trevor Peek at this point. But this could be a situation of which guy is more durable, who winds up winning this fight, because Peek does get hit a lot. He's got 54.5% distance striking defense, but he's as durable as they come, and he's got an absolute ton of heart. You're not getting this guy out of there without some kind of a weapon or without just being way more skilled than him and either finding a submission, I would think, or just, like having the ref peel you off of him. I think that's the only way you're going to get this dude out of there, because he'd rather die than let you knock him out. But this is going to be such a fun scrap. I got to lean Campbell here because, like you said, Brady, I think he's just more skilled at this point all around in terms of his MMA skill set. He's 6 months younger, but he's got a 2.5-inch reach advantage, and he is 3 inches taller than Trevor. And he's got just as many minutes in the pro cage compared to Trevor. And, like I say, the guy's tape, he's definitely facing a little bit better guys on the regional scene than what Trevor was. And from here on out, I think Charlie's going to be a really fun prospect to keep your eye on at this level. But I mean, I honestly don't even care who wins this fight. It's the fans who are going to win. This is great matchmaking. These are two very exciting young fighters who have a ton of heart, who have a very exciting style, and they're going to square off and they're going to throw punches in the center of the cage until one man falls. And I'm here to watch it, and I'm going to be rooting for both of these guys because they're both really high up on my list. I love watching guys that fight like Trevor and Charlie do. I'm going to lean Charlie in this spot, but I'm probably just going to be sitting back and enjoying this one as a fan.
Yeah, why not? It's one to certainly enjoy. Is Charlie Campbell training at Longo Weidman?
Yeah, that's where he's been for a long time.
Wow.
He's been training with those guys for a while. I'm pretty sure he's always been a Northeast guy, New York type guy from around that area. And
Trevor Peek's training at the Waffle House.
Yeah, he trains at a Gogi Combat Systems with Torres Finney and a couple of other up and coming fighters from that neck of the woods down there. So yeah, Trevor's getting better too. He's starting to put together a little bit more of an MMA skill set that'll be, functional at the UFC level, hopefully as he goes on, because he's going to give you good fights. It would be nice to see him build up that skill set of his and have more than one way to skin a cat than just outlasting and out-harding somebody. So yeah, I think I got to go with Charlie here.
Yeah, so Charlie Campbell has an OnlyFans, Weezy.
That's never a good thing. The way that fade has been working lately, man,
Yeah.
it's not a good thing, man. And Trevor Peek's got that dog in him, ladies and gentlemen. He absolutely has that dog in him.
Yeah, but yeah, that's I can see this fight playing out a couple different ways. Like Charlie Campbell's going to beat the living breaks off of Peak, I think, in the first round. But like you said, like Peak can like Homer Simpson his way to a win here, right? Like Charlie Campbell could tire out just by beating the crap out of Trevor Peak's face. Like he's so tough. I remember that Contender Series fight with Malik Lewis. Like Malik Lewis was beating the brakes off of Trevor Peak. Like I thought he was about to get him out of there, and then he didn't, and then he slowed down, and then Peak took over. So you have to kill Peak to get him out of there. So Charlie Campbell needs to be prepared for if you don't get him out of there, if you hurt him and don't get him out of there, has to be prepared to potentially go even 15 here if need be. But yeah, it's tough. It's a tough fight to call here. But Charlie Campbell's minus 225, which makes me a little bit nervous. I think he's the better fighter, more skill, but Trevor Peak has a lot of dog in him. Trevor Peak's a plus 190 underdog. The over-under, of course, set at 1.5 rounds, but to my surprise, the under 1.5 is juiced to minus 200. What is it? I don't get that, but I guess it could finish early, but both these guys are pretty dang tough. Like I could see it going over, but I'm not betting the over. Holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, it's plus 160 for the over, and that will be just an absolutely terrifying bet to make. But yeah, minus 200. I think that's if I were to look at my prop template now and just give you an idea, that is 33% overpriced compared to the benchmark for the division. So you're paying 66.67% for that minus 200 under 1.5 bet, but only a third of the fights finish under 1.5 rounds in the men's lightweight division. So yeah, it's an interesting spot, to if you're going to bet that over, my suggestion to you would be to leave the house for like 10 minutes, just go for a walk, because you're not going to want to watch that fight if it winds up if you're having over bet on it.
Yeah, believe it or not, it's over or pass. But I mean, betting an over in a Peak and Campbell fight is certainly terrifying. Victor saying, I now have a picture in my head of Trevor Peak sparring at Waffle House with the cooks and waiters. I mean, Victor, I don't know if you've ever been to Waffle House, especially at night. It is the most terrifying place on earth. I went to Waffle House one time late at night, and I was very concerned for my safety. Weezy, ever been to a Waffle House late at night? It's a concern.
Oh, I've been there. Yeah, man. I've seen shit snap off in Waffle Houses. And let me tell you something. You think you're tough? Those people that work there,
oh God, yeah.
Man, they've seen some shit. Those are like, they make Vietnam veterans look like weak people. I mean, like these guys, they know how to handle some really out of hand customers that come in late at night in places like that, dude. I went to a Waffle House once in Atlanta when I was in college, and I mean, we went running out of there without paying our checks because like shit just started snapping off, and we're like, nope, not dying here tonight.
It's terrifying. And the one I was at, they had no like parking lights in the parking lot. It's like I was seriously concerned for my own safety. I was very concerned. The Glenn saying the over 1.5 worked in the Cheaty fight. Yeah, that was probably the most sweat-free over you'll ever hit. Reese McGee did not want to show up, did not want to fight, and Cheaty, all he wanted to do was throw leg kicks. So yeah, that was a sweat. This one will be more sweaty though, for sure. I'd imagine that Peak and Campbell are going to actually fight here, I think. Yeah, that was I don't know how to feel about that comparison, but it is what it is. Why do waffles make people so angry? I don't know. They should make people happy, you think, right?
I love waffles. They definitely don't make me angry, but man, when you're going out for a meal at 3:30 in the morning, there are other things going on in your life, and that's why shit hits the fan at the Waffle House, man. You just, nothing good happens after like 2 a.m. anyway. So like, yeah, if you're going into a Waffle House, you're probably looking for a fight because you're drunk, you're hungry, and you're going to eat some bad food that's probably not going to sort of satisfy you. So yeah, the next thing to do naturally would just get into a fight.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the food's probably just straight ass, but whenever you're at a Waffle House, you typically are drinking. So I think it tastes a lot better than it actually does. When you eat chicken and waffles, are you supposed to put syrup on the chicken too? I'd think so. I don't eat chicken and waffles much, but you would think so, right?
You're supposed to put syrup on everything. Come on.
That's what I would think.
You only live once, dude. Maple syrup's excellent. It's delicious. You put it on whatever the hell you feel like putting it on. We're all adults here.
Yeah, you certainly are. All right, let's move on. Yeah, that was a great fight. Looking forward to it. Let's move on to this next fight. We got a Valter Walker going against Łucasz Brzeski. We got Walker, 26 years old, 6'6" with an 81-inch reach. Brzeski, 31 years old, 6'4" with a 78-inch reach. Walker is 5 years younger with a 2-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage. Walker, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He's making his debut here against Brzeski, who is 1 no contest and 3 in his last 5 fights. He had the no contest win against Dylan Potter on the Contender Series, won the fight by 3rd round sub, but popped for, was it Tiger Blood? Was that the guy?
Yeah. No, actually, you know what he popped for? He popped for estrogen blockers, which means that he was on steroids and then was using the estrogen blockers in order to hide the fact that he was going to have inflated levels of estrogen after he went off his cycle of steroids. So while he wasn't quite on the Tiger Blood, he had just been coming off of it and got caught with a masking agent.
Weezy, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't believe you. I don't believe that, Łucasz Brzeski was on steroids. I don't believe it one bit.
Yeah, it's probably just prayers and Flintstones vitamins that got him looking that way. And then he might have just, had a couple of bad months, broke up with his girlfriend, ate too much ice cream, and then that's the version we see today.
Holy crap. So we went from this to on the right-hand side you see there. So we went from that to this? That's terrible. How do you turn into Justin? You must have been on some shit, dude. How do you turn into Justin Taffa?
What drug do you take to turn into a Samoan? What steroid is that? Can somebody help us out there? Any medical professionals that can tell us what drug you take in order to turn into a Samoan? That would be wild.
I've never seen it. So we went from this to this. Yeah, steroids, they can be crazy, man. That is shocking.
Just don't do it, Stat Diggers audience. Just don't do it.
Yeah. Unless you want to end up looking like Justin Taffa.
Yeah.
Holy crap. So yeah, we have Johnny Walker's brother here, Valter Walker. He is, I think, one of the biggest favorites on the card. I was actually shocked to see they give Brzeski another opportunity. He's 0-3 in his first 3 UFC fights. He beat Martin Buday, but the judges got it wrong. He lost to Carl Williams, and then he got his ass shaved against Waldo Cortez Acosta. So I guess this is he's fighting for his job here. If he loses this fight, he's probably cut. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, when you watch the tape on Walker, I thought he was pretty good, Brady. The boxing looks kind of crisp and technical. He uses his length well. He stays behind a jab. He throws with some power. He can knock you out on the feet potentially. But also, he's also shown the ability to not only stop takedowns from his opponents, but also get takedowns of his own, move to dominant positions and land ground and pound and finish fights potentially that way. I think Walker has got a lot of things that I look for in any heavyweight that's up and coming, right? So he's only 26 years old. So like right there, you can have a very low bar for the guy and know that there's going to be some chances that they're going to improve. But with Walker, I see a guy who's got more than one way to skin a cat. He can take you down and win minutes and moments on the ground, and he can use that really great length and size he has for the division to stay at range and win minutes on the feet as well. And Brzeski stinks everywhere. Here's a guy who has no power at the heavyweight division. He lost a boxing match to Martin Buday. A lot of people thought he won. That's fine. He probably did win, but he didn't win it on the judges' scorecards, and that just goes to show you he's not landing big shots on the feet. He's not dangerous. So if at any point Walker feels like, I just don't feel like I like how the striking's going here, Brzeski has shown that you can absolutely take this guy down. He's got 0 takedowns, 4. He's allowed 8. He gets 1.5% control time, 4, and he allows over 31% to his opponents. And then, on the feet, he's landing 2.4 more significant strikes than he absorbs, but he's got 0 knockdowns and he's absorbed 2. So he's not really winning moments on the feet. He's barely winning minutes there. but I don't think he's going to win minutes against Valter Walker. He's got a 3-inch reach disadvantage, a 2-inch height disadvantage. And, and these guys even have similar experience numbers. Brzeski's got 3 more pro fights, 3 more UFC fights. But if you look at age time, it's almost identical for both guys. So, yeah, I mean, I think that this is Valter Walker. He should win this fight. But you don't lay minus 400 on heavyweight debuters. I mean, it's just not a great look to do that. There's so much variance in this division. You just never know what's going to happen. But and Walker's a debuting fighter. Sometimes you get bad performances there, so it would be a scary spot to lay juice. But also, I kind of feel like, how does Brzeski win this fight? Like, maybe he just survives a bad first round, and then Walker doesn't have much left in the tank. But the thing that's very comforting about Walker, Brady, is that this guy's been to decision 4 times, and he's won all of those fights. And when I watched a decision in one of the Russian fighters that he fought, conditioning looked good. He looks like he's got conditioning, good boxing, good grappling. Still only 26 years old. He's got good size for the division. He's undefeated. Kid looks like a pretty good prospect, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not picking Brzeski to beat anybody, but I'm also not laying minus 340 on Walker. He was actually minus 450. He's now down to minus 340. Brzeski was as high as plus 350, currently plus 280. I think the over's, potentially decent here. The over 1.5 is only minus 140. I don't mind that, but outside of that, I don't think I'll be touching this fight here. Any thoughts on the money line for Walker? You said probably not the best idea, but we get minus 340 now, so it came down a tad.
Yeah, minus 340, and then the violence line on this, the under 1.5 rounds, is plus 125. So it's not terribly overpriced, but Walker has been to decisions 4 times. So yeah, maybe this one does go over 1.5. I don't know what to think of this. I mean, I think Walker should make this fight look easy if he's going to have a future in the UFC. He's already minus 340 on the money line. I think he can actually be a bit of a parlay piece this week, because I just don't see Brzeski being dangerous. I think maybe Brzeski could win a decision, if he stops some takedowns, if he lands more volume on the feet. But I just see Walker landing the bigger shots, having the grappling advantage, having the speed advantage even. So yeah, I'm going to go with Walker here.
Yeah, for Brzeski to win, I think Walker's probably going to have to gas out or something.
Exactly. And it just could be that kind of a situation where he gets outboxed the last 2 rounds, and loses a 29-28.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I'll note though, like, what if we see a different version of Brzeski? Like, no more USADA, right? And I saw a very concerning tweet today about how many times these fighters have been tested thus far in the first quarter. Like, with USADA, they were testing him like a lot of guys, like every other day, right? Like, so many days are getting tested. But it was like a lot of people aren't even getting tested. Like Sean O'Malley, it said that he got tested 0 times this year. Like, so they're not testing these guys anywhere near as much as USADA did, which is and maybe that's why we're seeing, OSP go out there looking good. Chris Weidman even said at Media Day he's taking new vitamins. So I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Is wild. But I've also heard other people say that they've been getting tested the same amount that they were before. I forgot who. Oh yeah, it was Cody Durden. Cody Durden was on our guy Dan Levy's show, Best Fight Picks, and he was talking about a couple of fights this last week, and he said that he had been tested a couple of times, and it was fairly normal. It was just somebody different doing the testing. So I guess for some fighters it might be similar. For some fighters, they might not have even seen these guys yet.
Yeah, it was crazy. I saw the tweet. It was like, these guys aren't even getting tested, some of them. It was like the list of champions, though. So who knows about these other guys? I love post USADA. Yeah, post USADA is kind of kicking my ass so far. His chin is back. Whose chin's back? Oh, Chris Weidman. Yeah, his chin is certainly back. All right, let's move on to the next fight. We got Ignacio Bahamondes going against Christos Giagos. We got Bahamondes, 26 years old, 6'3" with a 75-inch reach. Giagos, 34 years old, 5'10" with a 71-inch reach. Bahamondes is 8 years younger, 5-inch reach advantage, 5-inch height advantage, 4-inch reach advantage. Bahamondes is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss against John McDessie, knockout win against Roosevelt Roberts, a submission win against Rong Zhu. That was the fight when he came in there with the pink hair. Lost that fight. Rong Zhu did, and then he beat Charrière Ogden, and then he beat he lost to Ludovic Klein his last time out. As far as Giagos, he is 2-3 his last 5 fights. Submission win against Sean Soriano, knockout loss to Arman Sarukian, submission loss to Thiago Moises, knockout win against Ricky Glenn, and then a submission loss to Daniel Zellhuber. So I think this is a very easy fight to break down because we know how every single Giagos fight plays out by now, don't we? I mean, Giagos is going to go out there in the first round and look very good. He's going to look very, very good in that first round. He might even hurt Bahamondes. He might even finish him. Like if Giagos wins, I think it's going to be early. But we see in every single Giagos fight, he starts to slow down. He starts to get tired. He starts to make mistakes. And then he gets finished. That's why I cashed that Zellhuber submission round 2 in his last fight. It played out exactly like I thought. Giagos would have success early, which he did. He hurt Zellhuber badly. The fight went on, got a little bit tired. Zellhuber started beating him up. He hurt him. Giagos shot in for a takedown, and Zellhuber snatched his neck up. So, yeah, I worry about Bahamondes. I worry about his striking defense. It is not good at all. I think Giagos might have some success early, but Giagos just can't seem to put together a full 15-minute performance. So it's tough to pick him here. I got to go Bahamondes, and I think Bahamondes probably even finishes him at some point. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, I mean, I hate this spot for Giagos. Giagos has got to really be able to wrestle in order to win minutes early and have a chance to win the fight. And, every time he kind of takes a step up in competition, it just doesn't seem to go his way. You look at the guys that Giagos has fought, combined records over those 13 fights of 75-51, right? So you're like, oh, damn, Christos is fighting some tough dudes. But then you look at the guys that he's beaten, and you add up their records, and it's 9 wins and 23 losses. So there's a big gap between the strength of schedule of the guys that are beating Christos Giagos and the guys that Christos is beating, right? And the guys that Christos is beating aren't UFC level guys. I mean, Rick Glenn on the end of his career, Sean Soriano was 0-5 in the UFC. There's just not a lot of names on this guy's resume where you say, oh, that's a good win. I mean, who are we saying is the best win here? Ricky Glenn, Sean Soriano, Carlton Minus, Damir Hadzovic, Mizuto Hirota, and somebody named Jorge de Oliveira. Yeah, those are not good wins. And look, I mean, if I'm going to pick Christos Giagos in a fight, I have to know that this dude's going to have some wrestling success early. Well, it turns out Ignacio Bahamondes has 82% takedown defense, and he's been controlled for less than 12% of his UFC cage time, despite the fact that his opponents are shooting almost 5 takedown attempts per fight against him. So this is a guy who's efficient in the grappling exchanges. He's tall and long for the division, so he can find chokes as a defense to takedown attempts. And he's just a much cleaner striker, a much busier striker, a much more accurate striker than Christos Giagos. So, yeah, I think that Ignacio is going to probably have a fun fight for the first minute, for the first round here, back and forth. Both guys will be landing some shots, but I think once Ignacio kind of finds his range, finds the spots where he's going to counter, find when he needs to play defense, he'll find those holes in the striking game of Christos. And then when Christos gets frustrated or hurt, I think that Ignacio probably finds a finish in the second or third round of this fight. So, yeah, I like Ignacio a lot here. I think it's a really bad stylistic matchup for Christos Giagos.
Yep, and that's why we are seeing this very wide line. We have Ignacio Bahamondes open at -275, currently -315. And then Giagos opened up +235, currently +265. The over-under is set at 1.5. The over 1.5 is juiced to -200. The under 1.5 is +160. I would lean, I guess, over 1.5, but I think the fight probably finishes 2-3 as well.
Agreed. Yeah, I'd rather get like an under 2.5 there, but you're probably going to be juiced up pretty good.
To the tits, yeah.
Yeah, I would say so, to the tits for sure.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, Giagos post you saw. Maybe we do see 3-round card of Giagos for the first time. We'll see. All right, so let's keep moving on. We have a few more fights to break down. we have Morgan Charrière going against Chepe Mariscal. We got Morgan Charrière. He's 27 years old, 5'7" with a 69-inch reach. Chepe Mariscal, he's 31 years old, 5'6" with a 69-inch reach. Charrière, he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against that bum, Manola Zucchini, won that fight by first round body shot knockout. And as far as Chepe Mariscal, he's 5-0 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Trevor Peek on short notice, won that fight by decision, and then beat Jack Jenkins TKO/injury from the Jack Jenkins side there. Yeah, this fight should be fun. You know, Chepe Mariscal is another one of these dogs. Like, that performance against Trevor Peek was very good. I believe Trevor Peek was a favorite in that matchup, and Chepe showed that he has a lot of dog in him as well. That fight ended up going the full 15 minutes somehow. And yeah, I like Chepe, very tough guy, but Morgan Charrière is very skilled. Morgan Charrière is a guy that is going to be more experienced. He's fought some solid competition outside the UFC, and he's good everywhere. He's a very good striker with power. He's a good grappler as well. He has good wrestling. He has good jiu-jitsu. He has very nasty, vicious ground and pound. Like, Charrière is kind of like the full package. I'm glad that he's finally in the UFC here. But yeah, it should be a fun fight here. We see why they put this one on the main card.
Yeah, I mean, Charrière came off a really nice performance in his debut, but it was against a guy that, I had no idea why Manola Zucchini got signed to the UFC. I don't know if Charriere's original opponent dropped out and it was a short notice replacement or something, but that was a bit of a head scratcher. And now he's facing Chepe Mariscal, who's a very experienced veteran of the regional scene, 22 pro fights, but only 2 of them coming in the UFC. And you look at the guys who he's losing to, they're all UFC level guys. I mean, Chepe Mariscal definitely has some of the toughest pre-UFC strength of schedule that I've ever seen. So Chepe's got that dog in him. He's got good judo. He can win minutes on the ground. He's got submissions, and he can land big shots on the feet. He's doing everything right so far in the UFC with those wins over Jenkins and Peek. So I think that those are both very good wins. Peek's a tough guy to get out of there, and Chepe did, really kind of flashed that grappling game of his and won a ton of minutes on the ground. And then we can also see this guy landing big shots on the feet as well. So, and with Charrière, you got a guy who's got 29 pro fights and over 300 minutes of pro cage time, almost 10 years of professional fight experience. He's been a lot busier than Chepe, and he's fought a really good level of competition in his own right. 3-1 to the submission, but 11-0 to the KO. And you got Mariscal been knocked out 3 times in his career. He's 7-3 to the KO, 3-0 to the submission. So, both of these guys finish a lot of fights by way of KO. 18 of their combined 34 wins come by way of KO. So this should be an absolute barn burner. Super fun fight. Cicero, Illinois, by the way, Brady, stand up. Chepe Mariscal, fighting pride of that South Side burg known as Cicero, right next to Berwyn. That's how you would know it, Brady. But, Chepe is trying to make it 3 in a row here. And I got to tell you, I faded Chepe against Peek. Wrong. Faded Chepe against Jenkins. Wrong. I don't have the balls to go back to the well and fade this dude again, even though I have a very high opinion of Morgan Charrière, and I think that he's going to be a solid UFC fighter in his own right. Which way are you leaning on this one?
Thinking Charrière, but yeah, this line's not too wide actually. He's minus 170, but it's tough going against a dog and Chepe. I feel like he can make it look very competitive here. Marcel's saying the fight goes the distance is the play. Just sit back and cash. Let's see where they put that total. The over 2.5 is minus 185. The under 2.5 is plus 155. Any thoughts on the total? I think I'd actually lean under at plus money, but I mean,
well,
Marcel
Charrière is a very durable dude. Only finished once in 9 losses.
Yeah.
So but we have seen Mariscal knocked out violently, I should add. Couple of times, Brady, scary knockouts that Jose Mariscal absorbed. So, maybe Charrière does have the finishing upside in this fight due to the durability and the fantastic 11-0 record that he has to the knockout. When you see that Mariscal is 7-3, that's a little bit worrying. You don't like to see 3 losses by knockout, especially against a guy that's 11-0.
Yeah. And Chepe has an OnlyFans? What?
Huh.
Really? Yeah, he does.
Hey man, you got to have some irons in the fire if you're from Cicero, Illinois, baby. You got to hustle. There's a lot of hustlers in Cicero and Berwyn, and I know he got the hell out of there to go up to Team Elevation and train over there. So
Yeah, I mean, and he's a handsome fella, isn't he, Chepe?
oh yeah, very handsome. Absolutely, dude. You'd think it would be the French guy named the Last Pirate that would be the handsome one in this fight. No, sir, man.
Yeah, no, sir, indeed. So yeah, he does have an OnlyFans as well. So we'll see. He is, yeah, he's pretty handsome. What do you think? Say,
Yeah, dude. I mean, definitely. He probably hangs dong on that OnlyFans and makes a ton of money. Don't you think?
yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I think so. But this is going to be a really fun fight, and I see why they put it on the main card. Should be a real banger.
Yeah, this fight's awesome.
Big feet picks, says Mr. D.
Dixon, do you like subscribe? Like, what are these guys posting on? Are they just posting like fight, camp footage, like training footage? Like, I'm sure Chepe's not on there posting like his ass, right? Like, what are these guys doing on there?
I don't know, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, I would like to know.
Oh,
Dixon, I'm sure you're subscribed. Actually, I think the OnlyFans is probably even free. Like, a lot of them do it for free.
Yeah, I think
I don't
a
know.
lot of them do. It's just a good promotion tool for them.
Yeah, so they're not like the majority of fighters on like they're not showing their ass unless you're like Marina Moroz. She shows her ass for sure. But
Yeah.
what?
Are you serious? Come on.
Chepe, I can't see it. There was somebody that fought not too long ago had a adult tape. Who was it? Makhmud Muradov has some adult tapes. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not one. I don't think you want to go check that one.
I'll let Dixon check it out for me, and he can do some clip notes on it.
Oh Lord.
Brady seems a little bit too interested in this. No, I'm okay.
How can you blame him? He's a very handsome man. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, for sure. All right. So hopefully there's no more. I know damn well Damon Jackson don't have no damn OnlyFans. Come on, Dixon. If you tell me Damon Jackson has an OnlyFans, I'm shutting off this stream. So, but we got Alexander Hernandez going against Damon Jackson. I believe this is the co-main event. Believe it or not, but it is. We got Damon Jackson, 35 years old, 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. Alexander Hernandez, 31 years old, 5'9" with a 72-inch reach. Hernandez, 4 years younger. It's going to be Damon Jackson with a 2-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach disadvantage. We have Alexander Hernandez, who is 2-3 his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Mike Breeden. Submission loss to Renato Moicano. Knockout loss to Billy Quarantillo. Decision win against Jim Miller, then a decision loss to Bill Algeo. As far as Damon Jackson, 3-2 his last 5 fights. Submission win against Camilla Kirk. Decision win against Daniel Argueta. Knockout win against Pat Sabatini. Knockout loss to Dan Ige. And then a decision loss to Billy Quarantillo. So the way I'm seeing this fight kind of play out is I think there's like a couple different paths here for this fight to play out. So the first path I see is I think Hernandez has a very good chance to spark Damon Jackson early. I think that's very much on the table. I've always questioned Damon Jackson's chin. I've always questioned his striking defense. I think he's very hittable. He's been knocked out a handful of times, and Hernandez has a lot of power. Hernandez actually has a lot of first-round knockouts. But, as this fight goes on, we always have to worry about the cardio of Hernandez. He's slowing down in pretty much every single fight. He's having success early. He's looking good, but as the fight goes on, he seems to slow down more and more. The Billy Quarantillo fight, the Renato Moicano fight, the Drew Dober fight, so on and so on and so on. And Damon Jackson's one of those guys that can push a pace. He's one of those guys that can go out there, fight a very hard 15 minutes, and he's going to be live for that entire 15 minutes. But like I said, he's also, I think, a little bit of a liability on the feet, at least early on. So I kind of think it's Hernandez potentially by first-round knockout, but as this fight goes on, I think it's going to more and more favor a guy like Damon Jackson. It's a very interesting matchup here in this co-main event. Weezy, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I don't know what to do with this because I had some success betting on Damon Jackson. I cashed on him against Argueta. I cashed on him against Sabatini, and I also cashed on him against Campbell Kirk, and then I pushed it a little bit too far, and I bet him against Ige, and that was a bad bet. And Ige really kind of cleaned up on him, and I was at that point, I kind of thought to myself, maybe Damon is going to take this next step. He's got a good grappling game. His striking is underrated. He's fought a really good level of competition. He's experienced, well-rounded, solid conditioning. But yeah, man, he's just not ready for that next level. And Alexander Hernandez, is a guy who's been on that precipice, for a while now. He's looking for those big wins, those wins that'll kind of get him to that next level. But God, it's so hard to have a lot of faith in either one of these guys, Brady. I mean, we've seen Alexander Hernandez kind of disappoint in a few different areas. I mean, he got outstruck by Thiago Moises. You remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
That was rough, dude, and he got broken by Quarantillo late in the second round of their fight. Had a really good fight, though, with Jim Miller. Went back and forth, had some moments, lost some moments, showed a really good skill set in that fight, and then lost a decision to a tough guy in Algio. He's been fighting really good competition, when he gets those step downs against like Breeden or an older Jim Miller, he's handling it. When he's fighting fighters the quality of Algio, Quarantillo, and Moicano, he's coming up short. But now that he's down at 145, I think that's the right weight class for him. He looks to be making that cut well, and he doesn't look to be killing himself to get down there. And, this could be the first chance that he has to win a fight down here at 145 and show that this is the right weight class for him. But Damon Jackson's a tough test. And, if Hernandez makes any mistakes on the ground against Damon, he's going to be put in some bad situations. And that's something you can always count on from Damon, is that he's got very slick grappling, and that he could be losing, and then find one scramble, one little spot where he gets to an advantageous position and he can finish you from there. So it's a fascinating fight. Where's the line on this one?
Yeah, Hernandez is a minus 205 favorite. He opened up minus 160. So money's came in on Hernandez. And then Damon Jackson is a plus 175 underdog. I don't know about you, but I mean, I would not trust Alexander Hernandez at minus 200, but I think there is a good chance he goes out there and could make this look pretty easy. Dixon in the chat saying he folds him to Poirier style. I could see it. Like, Hernandez early on has had a lot of success in a lot of fights. He knocked out Mike Breeden in the first round, which it's not saying a lot, but he did it. He knocked out Beneil Dariush in the first round. He knocked out Chris Grutzmacher in the first round, who's typically a tough guy. So yeah, I think maybe like an early finish on Hernandez could be interesting. Then maybe some late Damon Jackson props, but I like violence in general. The over-under set at 2.5 rounds. Yeah, I got smacked in it. The under 2.5 opened up at minus 105. Believe it or not, it got smashed to minus 175. And then the over 2.5 is now plus 145. So I'm kind of seeing like Hernandez early, maybe Jackson late, but I can't lay minus 205 on Hernandez. He's crumbled in so many fights. He crumbled in the Billy Q fight. He crumbled in the Moicano fight. He didn't even show up in the Moises fight. He crumbled in the Dober fight. He crumbled in the Cerrone fight. I mean, he's crumbled a lot, like a good amount of times. So I don't know. It's a kind of a weird fight.
Yeah, I had no idea the line was that wide. No way am I laying that kind of money on Alex Hernandez when I think Damon Jackson's just as dangerous of a finisher as Hernandez is at this point, maybe even more so.
Yeah, Damon Jackson's very dangerous. And what's dangerous about him, though, is he can go and fight a full 15 minutes. Like, whereas Hernandez, it's like a little iffy in a lot of fights. So, yeah, I can't lay this price tag. And then the under got smashed as well. So that kind of sucks. So we'll see what the props open up throughout the week. Any other final thoughts on this fight before we move on to this main event?
The line's too wide, I would just say. That would be a dog or pass spot for me. Damon Jackson can find a way to win this fight, I think.
Certainly a path. All right, Weezy, let's move on to this main event. Who was Brendan Allen supposed to fight?
He was supposed to fight Marvin Vettori, the brickhead.
And then Vettori pulled out. And then in steps Chris Curtis. Like, I'm actually looking forward to this fight more than the Vettori fight because this has a good narrative behind it. Because Brendan Allen hates Extreme Couture. He hates Sean Strickland. and he hates Chris Curtis, I think, as well. I remember in their first fight, Chris Curtis and him, Brendan Allen was like talking to Sean Strickland in the corner, like during the fight. It was hilarious, but yeah, should be a good one here. We have Brendan Allen, Chris Curtis, main event, 5 rounds. Brendan Allen, 28 years old, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. Curtis, 36 years old, 5'10" with a 75-inch reach. You got Allen, 8 years younger. It's going to be Allen with a 4-inch height advantage and the same reach there. Brendan Allen, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. His last loss actually came to Chris Curtis, but he's beaten Jacob Malkoun by decision, submitted Christoph Jocko, Andre Muniz, Bruno Silva, and then Paul Craig. As far as Chris Curtis, he is 2-1 no contest his last 5 fights. Decision loss against Jack Hermanson, knockout win against Buckley, decision loss against Gastelum, no contest against Imavov, and then a decision win against Mark Andre Barrio his last time out. So yeah, in their first fight, Brendan Allen was a massive favorite in that matchup. He was a massive favorite, and I'm pretty sure I stayed away from the fight because I think a big talking point for me is, Brendan Allen, he does not have the best fight IQ, and he didn't in that fight. He went out there against Chris Curtis. He did try to take him down 3 times, which, as we know, taking down Chris Curtis is just impossible. But he went 0 for 3 in takedowns, and then at distance, it was Chris Curtis, doing the better work, outlanding Brendan Allen 49-39 at distance. So Brendan Allen's a guy that used to be primarily a grappler, very good black belt, very dangerous on the mat, has fallen in love with his hands, and rightfully so. Brendan Allen's striking is looking really good as of late, but this is a tough matchup for me to pick here because I kind of feel like it's a tough matchup for Allen, just because Chris Curtis, he does have that elite takedown defense. Like, we don't typically see guys with stuffing 36 of 39 takedowns. Like, that's incredible. And then on the feet, Chris Curtis is a really good striker. So I think it's a close fight. Interesting fight. Weezy, curious to your thoughts on this main event.
Yeah, I mean, is Brendan Allen going to wrestle more this time? I mean, that's what we got to ask ourselves, because standing at range with Chris Curtis didn't work for him. Not only did he not win the minutes, and Chris is not the busiest striker. You can win minutes against him at range, especially if you don't get in the pocket and let him counter. If you stay outside, use your reach advantage, use your height advantage, throw teep kicks and jabs, stand behind that and move laterally, going to make it very difficult for Chris. So, yeah, I mean, I think Brendan actually has more ways to win this fight. I mean, he's definitely the better grappler, the more dangerous grappler. He's fought the better brand of competition at the UFC level. In terms of, especially in terms of just experience levels. But both of these guys have good ratios overall, but it's Brendan that's going to be the much more likely guy to win minutes in these grappling exchanges, if there are any. And even if there aren't, Chris Curtis is just not a minute winner at distance. He's going to have to land the big shot. He's going to have to knock him out, and he's got 5 rounds to do it. So I think it's going to be interesting, to see what kind of success Brendan Allen can have early in this fight, because this guy's record's legit, man. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's 11-2 in the UFC with 118 minutes of professional cage time. He's finished 8 of those 11 wins, and he's been knocked out in both of the losses. So it's interesting, is he gonna? I think this fight finishes inside the distance, because I think either Brendan gets a submission here, or Chris Curtis finds that button at some point, because like you said, we can't really count on Brendan to do the smartest things all the time. When you think that he's going to grapple, he strikes. When you think that he's going to strike, he'll start to wrestle. So I don't know. I think he might strike with this guy. And if that's the case, I think I got to favor Curtis, but man, Brendan Allen has been on fire lately, and if he can bring the right striking game plan, I can see scenarios where he wins the minutes on the feet as well. So I kind of feel like if you look at all the possible paths to victory here, and then you also take into consideration that Brendan Allen's going to be the bigger dude, the younger dude by 8 years, I like Brendan here.
Yeah, I think I'm probably on the more so the dogger pass, but I do like violence there. Chris Curtis opened up plus 170, went to plus 190, currently at plus 165. Brendan Allen opened up minus 200. He's currently minus 190. And we have Peter saying the under seems like a solid play, and I would tend to agree. So the under or the over-under says it at 2.5, the over 2.5 minus 120. The under 2.5 minus 110. I don't hate that. Like, if Brendan Allen is able to get the fight down to the mat, his submission game is next level. Good ground and pound as well. And then on the feet, both guys are live to hurt either guy. So yeah, I don't mind the under. I think that's probably my favorite spot. And it's at a pick 'em for 2.5. I don't hate that. Their last fight did finish under for what it's worth, and a lot of Brendan Allen fights finish under for what it's worth as well.
Absolutely. So this one will, and these guys don't like each other either. So I think that's another reason to think that it's going to go under. I think these guys are going to bang it out and have some fun and make this a good main event here. But yeah, we got a lot of fights on this card, some interesting ones, some bad ones, but this is a pretty good main event. I'm interested to see who winds up coming out on top here.
Yeah, I think it's really, I like the main event a lot. I think it's more so like a hardcore fan type main event. Like people are gonna probably crap on this main event, but I like it. I like it a lot. I'm looking forward to it.
Agreed, man. It's a pretty solid card from top to bottom, and it should be really fun to watch.
Absolutely. We're supposed to have 14 fights. We're supposed to watch Joshua Van versus somebody, but that fight fell off, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, because Van stepped in on short notice to take somebody else's place, and then when the kid who was fighting Van now found out he was fighting Van, then he pulled out. So yeah, it was we might get another opponent for Van here, but I don't think a lot of people are going to be taking that call on less than a week's notice. That'd be a bad move, in my opinion.
Yeah, you don't take a short notice fight against Joshua Van, but Weezy, we did it. We went through every single fight for UFC Vegas 90. Brendan Allen and Chris Curtis. Let the people know where they can find you and your content for this week. Are you doing just a tip on Tuesday, or what are you doing?
No, it's not going to happen this week, dude. I got a wedding on Tuesday. I got a rehearsal dinner tomorrow. On Wednesday, everybody's leaving the villa, so we got a giant barbecue. On Thursday, I'm going to Rome. On Saturday, I'm going from Rome to Paris, back to Chicago. So I'm going to start to try to get a little bit ahead on UFC 300, and I'm not going to be able to do content on my channel this week, unfortunately. Just too much going on here at the end of the vacation and the wedding and all this stuff. So I wanted to come here and do Stat Diggers this week because this is the best show that I do all week for sure, and always good to hang out with all you here on Pub Sports Radio. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 90 and have a good time watching these fights.
Let's Gus saying I need to leave the country until UFC 300 too. Same. I think that's a great idea. Just leave the country and then just come back in time for UFC 300. Yeah, very, very sick. Very sick. If you guys saw me earlier in the show, I was very sick. Able to push through it a little bit, but yeah, guys, there you have it. My content will be out. I'm hoping for tomorrow. I'm hoping to get my main event prediction out and then my full card prediction video out tomorrow. And then, as always, the regular content, live Friday, live Saturday, all the good stuff. Best of luck, everybody, for UFC Vegas 90. Like on your way out, subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon. See you guys later.